You know, the incredible thing about Bram Stoker's Dracula is that he doesn't just show you a monster. He builds one, piece by horrifying piece right before your eyes, through the people who encounter him. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how the novel creates this legendary villain, not by just describing him, but by unraveling a chilling mystery. Okay, let's get into it.
And really, what better place to start than with the Count's own words? He says this to his guest Jonathan Harker as wolves are howling right outside the castle. That one line, it just sets this perfect tone of gothic dread. It tells you everything. This is a man who isn't just comfortable with the darkness, he finds a terrible kind of beauty in it.
So our story kicks off, just like the novel, with a journey into the great unknown. A young English lawyer, Jonathan Harker, is heading to the remote Carpathian Mountains for what he thinks is a simple business trip. But right from the very beginning, you can just feel that something is deeply, deeply wrong.
Now, you gotta understand Harker. He's a man of logic, of the modern world. And he's immediately hit with this wall of what he sees as pure superstition. The local villagers are terrified for him. They're pushing crucifixes into his hands, whispering these warnings that he just shrugs off as, ridiculous folklore. To him, it's a business meeting. To them, he's walking straight into the devil's lair. But here's the thing about Harker. He writes everything down. So he jots down these strange words he keeps hearing, and in doing so, he gives us our first real clues. The fear here isn't just some vague boogeyman story. It has specific names. Words like Strigojka for witch, and then the big one, Vrolok, vampire. It's a word Harker doesn't get yet, but it just hangs in the air, already full of dread. The very last leg of his trip is just a total nightmare. He's with this mysterious coach driver, his face totally hidden in the shadows, who seems to have this unnatural command over a pack of wolves that's closing in. With just a single gesture, he makes them fall silent. Harker is absolutely terrified, realizing he's completely at the mercy of this strange figure, plunging deeper and deeper into a land that plays by a whole different set of rules. So he finally arrives at the crumbling, ancient Castle Dracula, and that feeling of unease just gets worse. The Count is very polite at first, kind of strange, but courteous, but that act quickly falls apart, and this creeping realization sinks in. He's not a guest. He's a prisoner. And what's so brilliant here is how Stoker builds the monster through Harker's journal entries. It reads like a detective's case file. He's noting down every little detail, the Count's cold, clammy hands, his sharp nails, the strange hair growing in his palms. He sees that the Count has the strength of many men combined. And then, the most chilling discovery of all, the Count casts no reflection in the mirror. But the absolute horror comes when he looks out his window and sees his host crawling face down the sheer castle wall, just like some monstrous lizard. And this is the moment it all comes crashing down. He checks the doors. They're all locked. The Count is his jailer. Harker is trapped. And the question isn't about his host's weird habits anymore. The question is now about survival. How to survive being locked in with a creature that only wears the semblance of man. Okay, so now the story does something really clever. Dracula is on his way to England, and the whole narrative just shifts. His arrival isn't announced with a bang. It's felt, like a creeping, unseen plague. And now we're hearing the story through letters and diaries from a whole new cast of characters who have no idea what Jonathan Harker just went through. We get this first-hand account of pure terror from the ship's log, the Demeter, which is carrying Dracula to England. The captain writes about this phantom-like figure stalking the ship, the crew just vanishing, one by one, and then this ghost ship just runs aground in the English town of Whitby, with only a dead man lashed to the helm. I mean, can you imagine seeing that? Meanwhile, in that very same town, a young woman named Lucy Westenra starts to get sick. It's a mysterious illness. She's growing weaker, paler, having these awful nightmares. And the doctors, they are completely baffled. The only physical sign of anything wrong are two tiny, almost unnoticeable little marks on her neck. Her best friend Mina, who happens to be Jonathan Harker's fiancée, watches totally helpless. Through her diary, we feel this growing dread as Lucy's life just seems to be draining away. And for us, the reader, we're starting to connect the dots, right? The ghost ship, the dead captain, and now this inexplicable sickness. The monster is in England, and he is feeding. Since modern medicine is completely failing, Lucy's friends call in a specialist from Amsterdam, a brilliant but kind of eccentric professor named Abraham van Helsing. And he is the first one to look at all the evidence and realize they're not fighting a disease. This isn't something you can find in a medical textbook. So Van Helsing comes in, and his methods seem completely insane to his colleague, the very scientific Dr. Seward. He starts stuffing Lucy's room with garlic flowers, gives her crucifixes, and performs blood transfusion after blood transfusion to try and replace the life that's being stolen every single night. See, he gets it. This battle has to be fought with the old weapons of superstition, not science. And then, finally, Van Helsing puts a name to this evil. He explains that Lucy is the victim of the undead, the Nosferatu, and this is the huge turning point in the story. The mystery is solved, they know what they are fighting, and now the hunt can finally begin.
And Van Helsing does not mince words. He lays out the stakes perfectly. Their enemy isn't just some brute. He's an ancient warlord, a brilliant mind whose cunning has been sharpened over centuries. He's intelligent, he's powerful, and he is absolutely relentless.
So remember Jonathan Harker? Well, he miraculously escaped the castle, and he finally reunites with Mina and the others. This is where all the different story threads finally come together. Their shared knowledge, Harker's eyewitness account, Van Helsing's expertise, their friends' determination, it transforms them from victims into a crew of light, dedicated to one thing, hunting Dracula down. And listen, this isn't just a monster hunt, it's a strategic campaign. Van Helsing basically teaches them the vampire rulebook, outlining both Dracula's incredible powers and, more importantly, his critical weaknesses. Sure, he has the strength of 20 men and commands the elements, but he also can't enter a home unless you invite him. He's powerless during the day, and he's repelled by things like garlic and crucifixes. These rules are their only hope of defeating an enemy who seems otherwise invincible. But then, the fight gets intensely personal. Dracula attacks Mina, forcing a psychic link between them. She's physically scarred by a holy object, a constant reminder of his taint. But her courage never, ever fails. In fact, that terrible connection becomes their greatest weapon. They use her psychic link to track the Count's movements, turning his own power right back against him. Mina becomes the heart, soul, and tactical center of the entire hunt. What follows is this desperate race across Europe, all the way back to the same mountain pass where Harker's nightmare began. They know he has to sleep in his native soil, so they track down his final coffin. It all comes down to this frantic, bloody battle where they intercept him just as the sun is setting, destroying him in the very last moments of daylight before he can rise and regain his full power. So, the monster is defeated, but the story's power, that remains, doesn't it? Stoker's genius wasn't just in creating a monster, but in how he revealed him. Through these fragments, a journal entry here, a ship's log there, a strange wound on a young woman's neck, Stoker turns us, the readers, into detectives, piecing the clues together right alongside the characters. We feel their dawning horror because it becomes our own as we finally understand the true anatomy of his monster.